Good morning, Muttonistas, and morning it actually is. Those of you who have travelled a bit in Europe will know exactly what lies behind me, but for those who don't, it's the Little Mermaid in Copenhagen, and I would have thought it's fairly obvious what I'm doing in Copenhagen in the middle of October. Yes, it's City away at FC Copenhagen in the Champions League. Join me for today's Matchday vlog. I have actually been to Copenhagen a number of times, but this is actually the first time I've seen the Little Mermaid, and I'm a bit embarrassed to say I've only been to Copenhagen in Denmark. Anyway, it's still a great place, even if it's an expensive place to have been drawn away in the Champions League. So, without further ado, let's head off to a traditional Danish lunch. And if you're wondering what traditional Danish food is, well, sorry, until I take this lunch, I don't know either. Well, one thing I have to say is that it's very easy to get to the Little Mermaid. It is not at all easy to get back. There's no taxi stand there. I thought it would have been flooded with tourists. I thought there would have been like a big taxi rank there. But there appears to be some sort of railway station or siding behind us. So I'm going to check that out and hopefully that will get me to my lunch appointment on time. I tried to hop on a bus, but the bus was going to the ferry terminal. But thankfully, when I showed the driver where I was going, he pointed me to the railway station. And then two Danish gents kindly pointed me in the right direction from there on. I mean, it wouldn't be one of my trips without a travel cock-up, would it? Having mentioned travel cock-ups, last night priced on a bike. Given the direct tickets to Copenhagen were taken in an instant, and there was the usual price gouging by the airlines, I put myself in with KLM, leaving Manchester at 1, arriving at 6. Oh no, can't be that simple, can it? The second of the two flights was cancelled 3 days before departure. And so given they're a big company and they work together, they're a partnership, I was put onto Air France, leaving at 5 o'clock. But that left an uber-tight connection of what was supposed to be 1 hour and 5, but was more like 35 to 40 minutes by the time the plane from Manchester had reached Paris. I can tell you, Muttonistas, I gave Usain Bolt a good run for his money last night. The journey has got more complicated. There was a train ready to go. I said, can I buy a ticket on board? And the lady guard said, no, you can't. I've now splashed out 35 quid on a 2-day travel card. I hope there are no supplements anywhere for me. Anyway, at least I know I'm on the right platform now, and I don't have to spend any more transport money, hopefully, unless I have to take a late night cab from somewhere. Anyway, here comes the train. Wow, this is complicated, very complicated. They have trains, S lines, M lines. If you're using public transport here and you're not familiar with it, best to ask. Okay, finally got to the restaurant. I thought just getting a cab out to the Little Mermaid and coming back would be a simple affair, but no, it was a major expedition, so plan it carefully, folks, if you want to go and see the Little Mermaid. Not so easy to get back. I suppose supporters of Millwall Football Club, annoyed at all the hassle, would go back and chin the Little Mermaid, but at City we're much more civil than that. I'm going to have a good lunch. I'm going to try traditional Danish food for the first time. I'm really looking forward to it. Nice outdoor area if you want to come during the summer. Okay, Muttonistas, settled down at the restaurant, and I don't know what to have, but my friend Preben is here with me, and he has suggested one of the set menus. There are 3 of them. One is possibly even too big for me, so we're going to go for the medium-sized set menu. And there'll be plenty of dishes, Muttonistas, that you and I will be having for the first time.
In the reservation that you will do a little video shooting, and you will be very sort of. It's a nice little place, and in the summertime you sit outside.
To keep steady.
Kenya, which is quite famous because it's a free town.
I'm joined today by my friend Preben, who lives in Copenhagen, a bridge player as well, and he's kindly joined me for lunch this afternoon. Now, he knows what we're having, and I don't, so I'm going to ask him kindly to describe each dish.
We're having pickled herrings, so that's raw herrings, but it tastes quite good, I would say. And you serve it with eggs, and on the bread side, you will normally have it on rye bread, which is what we all eat in Denmark. You wouldn't eat it on white bread.
Okay.
And you serve it with fat.
Okay. Lard or something.
Lard, something, yeah. Or you could be more reasonable and choose the butter.
Well, there we are. Schnapps or beer? Well, I believe we're supposed to have the schnapps with the herring, so I'd better have a quick slurp just to wet my whistle before we get going. That's light, citrusy and refreshing. Probably we'll be moving on to some darker and heavy stuff in due course with the other dishes.
Serve it with, but got some capers. This is quite nice, but it is a nice place. They do right well.
So Muttonistas, lard on first, herrings on next, egg at the end, and as you can see, it's not soft boiled, but it's not hard boiled either. It's something in between, which is good because I'm fed up in Britain of getting eggs that are boiled as hard as boulders. And something else I have to point out is in continental European cuisine, a lot more bread is eaten with meals. In the UK, that's a tradition we've lost. Here we go.
Yeah.
So that's lightly curried, lightly pickled, and Muttonistas, I hope I'm not heavily pickled by the end of the day. Yeah, I can see how that goes well. Normally I don't like white spirits, but this is actually quite a good match. So this schnapps was specifically ordered for the herrings. There's a bit left, so we'd better shoot it. Skål, Muttonistas. Next we have fried fish fillet with remoulade, which will be a mustard-based tartare, I think. So we will have this maybe with some white bread.
Because it's mainly mayonnaise, so you're not down on calories. But you can, of course, always add some butter.
Okay. And are we frightened of calories, Muttonistas? No, of course we're not.
Today.
Not today, at least. Now, Preben's been waxing lyrical about the remoulade that we're taking with the fried fish. Is it flounder, the fish?
Could be called. Or
Yeah, the fish is really moist and cooked to the point. The batter is fresh, crisp and light. And, I agree, the remoulade, for you boys in the UK, it is tartare sauce on steroids. So we have a chicken salad now, but it is not any old chicken salad. Wow, chicken skin in a salad.
Traditionally have it with bacon, but they've made it with chicken skin.
Okay.
Which I think.
Well, I'm excited to try this, and a different beverage has arrived to accompany this. A Classica beer, which looks a bit like a brown ale to me, but that's good. It's more like a Czech dark beer, but not one of the darkest types. So, to taste, is it? Well, I'll have a piece of white bread with this one. So, traditionally, the lard is only used with the herring, so we'll stick to butter this time. Okay, so the butter has come from a micro-Danish dairy, and as you can see, this salad is not what you'd normally think of as a salad. In many countries, a salad is used to describe a cold dish, which involves some meat or seafood and some vegetables, as opposed to a green salad, which in the English-speaking world world tends to suggest that there's a lot of greenery and a few red vegetables like radishes and tomatoes. Okay, here we go, folks. Those of you who watch my videos regularly will know very well that the skin of any type of meat, particularly duck and chicken, is so important. And although this salad is sometimes served with bacon instead of chicken skin, I really like the skin. Okay, onwards and upwards, muttonistas. We have now the main course, if I could put it that way, or the meat course.
So it's a roasted pig with the crispy skin on it. And I don't know what that's called. It's called
it's red cabbage.
Red cabbage, yes, and pickled
cucumber. Pickled cucumber.
Yes. And this is like a pate made from pig and veal, and I have another pickled
beetroot. I think.
Beetroot, yes, of course, yes. And I'm quite sure that it will taste quite nice. There are some mushrooms.
Yes, I can see some mushrooms and red onions. Chanterelle mushrooms. And muttonistas, as I keep saying, that skin is so important. So much the fat, the juice, the flavour. If you spend your life having breast of chicken, fillet steak, fillet of pork without the meat going anywhere near the skin, then you're missing out on a lot. Okay, so I'm going to try the pork without the cabbage and the cucumber first. Oh, that is so tender and juicy, wowzers. I'm not sure I even want to add the cucumber and the red cabbage now. And all good things deserve a quick slurp. Mutton, chapter 11, verse 13. Finally, muttonistas, before our dessert, which will be cheese-based, we have the pate. Now, rather unusually, this is from pig's liver. Normally, chicken, duck are your staple meats that you use the liver from to produce pates, but this is a bit different. Okay, here we go. Now, that does have a strong flavour. I must admit, I do prefer duck pates to pork pate. That's not to say it's unpleasant, but I do see the point of the beetroot, because otherwise the flavour of that pate is overwhelming.
Old crispy cheese.
Old crispy cheese.
Yes, from Ala Unica.
Okay, so a hard cheese, but it's old and
yes.
crispy.
Yes, and it's quite salty, very delicious, one of my favourites. The brie, classic, I don't know which one it is.
Okay, Danish brie, he said.
Yes, and this is home baked.
Crisp bread?
Yeah, crisp bread, yeah. And this one is
walnut and honey chutney. So, as always, I'm going to try the raw product without the honey and the chutney and the bread before moving on to trying those. We've gone back to the IPA, so a quick slurp to cleanse the palate. Now this is the old crunchy. Similar characteristics to a matured cheddar. Not quite the same. And on second thought, in my opinion, it gets the nod over a matured cheddar. Now onto the Danish brie. Very similar to a classic brie, but you can taste that the cows from which the milk have come from are a little bit different. I'd say it's a bit chunkier, meatier than a normal brie, and I like it. Now, onto the honey. Okay, we seem to be missing a fork, so I'll be uncouth and agricultural and use my hands, dripping it all over my trousers. Yeah, that's pretty pleasant, I have to say, although, in my opinion, good cheese doesn't need any chutney. Okay, muttonistas, what a wonderful lunch that was. I consider myself to have been educated about Danish food there. Anyway, it was fairly light by my standards for lunch, but satisfying and filling, albeit a little bit expensive for those of us who denominate in pounds sterling. Nevertheless, I declare myself match fit. Let's head off to the stadium for a pint and the game. So, pretty decent pre-match atmosphere here, folks. Unfortunately, this is where my microphone trouble started when I switched over to my wired one, so I'll try and voice over the bits that have gone wrong. Time for a pint before I hit the metro, so I order a schnapps. When in Denmark, have a schnapps and come on City. Not too bad at all, pretty smooth. So to cut a long story short, when we arrived at the advertised metro station, a policeman said Manchester City supporters stay on board, which we did. But when we arrived at the next station, there was absolutely nobody to tell us where to go. Anyway, with the help of Google Maps, we eventually found the stadium, and at least we ended up on the right side of the stadium where the away supporters were standing or sitting. So at this point, Muttonistas, there's no sound, unfortunately, with the game. So I'm going to show you brief highlights of the game. Not that there were that many in a 0-0 draw. A pity, really, because there was a cracking atmosphere at the stadium. The post-match wrap, however, will be brought to you with normal audio. And as you can see, it's a really tight stadium with the stands very close to the pitch. Makes for a pretty good atmosphere. Now, of course, we all thought that Rodri had put us 1-0 up with that thunderbolt. We couldn't see the accidental handball from Mahrez. But, having been sent some rules by a viewer, my understanding is that it's the attacking player who scores who can't score from an accidental handball. But if the assist comes from a completely accidental handball, then the goal should stand. So City, I believe, should have had that goal stand. Now, of course, the funny thing here is that, aside from the penalty being hard to spot from the other end of the pitch, I was surprised that there were no City players appealing for it even. Of course, when the referee goes to watch the monitor, it almost always means he's going to overrule his original decision. I've only seen it not being overturned once. And as soon as I realised it was Mahrez to take the penalty, I was clenching my buttocks, because more often than not, he'll put them away when we're 3-0 up, but when the pressure's on and the match is tight, he usually misses. And bang, yes, he missed again. And here, where Rodri gave the ball away, we were left a little bit exposed at the back, I have to say. And Gomez was covering his man, but I'm not sure he had to wrestle him to the ground like that. It wasn't that physical or violent a foul, but the laws were applied correctly. It was a red card, he was the last man, and it was a foul. And hopefully Sergio Gomez, who is a player I have great hopes for in the future, will learn from this and not make the same mistake again. City had been well in control at that point, and the sending off kind of killed the game. In the second half, both sides traded quite a decent shot each from outside the area, but that was about it. I mean, even the TV highlights had virtually nothing to show from the second half. Anyway, as you can see, the home supporters were really pleased with the point, and I suppose you could say no damage to either side, and everybody went home and lived happily ever after, especially because Dortmund did not beat Seville. So here we are, folks, your second half highlights. A decent long shot from City after the first shot was initially blocked. I have to say, the FC Copenhagen keeper did have good games in both matches. Finally, Copenhagen's decent chance in the second half. Muttonistas, I am very sorry. The microphone, for some reason, malfunctioned halfway through the vlog. I've only realised it now I've checked the footage. I think in future I'll probably take risks with this clip-on microphone, so I have all the footage but no crowd noise or none of my remarks at the time. But for what it's worth, what I was saying at the time was that Mahrez was stinking the place out again. His handball was a little bit unlucky, having had another look at that, but his penalty when he's under pressure, no, he never seems to put them away. Only when we're like 3 or 4-0 up in a match he bags one in. West Ham away and Liverpool away, just 2 off the top of my head. I suppose the rest of the team was a bit experimental. I think Pep wanted to see how players could play without Haaland and how some of the, well, I wouldn't call them fringe players, but those who were in or out of the first team would perform, and to be honest, a bit of it was lukewarm. We were okay until we had Gomez sent off, and I don't think he really had to do what he did. Not that he did that much anyway. That point is guaranteed as qualification, but there's still work to be done in Dortmund to guarantee winning the group. So this draw is not the end of the world. I think we'll probably get the business done and win the group anyway. And we've also left plenty in the tank for Sunday away to Liverpool. So I'm going to wrap things up. Not an eventful match. I have to say it's probably a good thing it wasn't, given the microphone failure. Apologies once again for that. The next vlog will be Dortmund away. And until then, don't forget, you can't beat a bit of mutton.